Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming here today for a celebration of Sheldon Menery. Sheldon is someone who had a tremendous impact on the game, both on a competitive level, on a social level, changing the way we all play the game, changing the way the game is manufactured, and someone who I feel incredibly grateful to have called a dear friend. Sheldon had a lot of time for a lot of people, but when he brought you into that inner circle of people, it was something tremendously special, and you felt really grateful for that and really like you were breathing pretty rare air. And I was fortunate to do that with Sheldon for a long time. And as this event was approaching, I was incredibly humbled and honored that Sheldon asked me to do an interview with him on stage here today. He really wanted to be here, despite his failing health, with all of you. He wanted to see all of you and talk to you about the game and play with you. And we really hoped that would happen. And but as it became apparent that maybe he wouldn't be able to travel, we decided about 3 weeks ago to go down to Florida, bring a camera crew with us, and we conducted that interview in his home. And I'm going to miss Sheldon forever, but I will always be grateful for the opportunities I had with him, and I will be always honored that he trusted me to spend this time with him and bring you this interview here today. I'm going to come back out at the end of this and share something else with all of you, but in the meantime, this is my conversation with Sheldon from the last week of August, and I'll let them take it away. Thank you. Sheldon, thank you so much for having me in your house. Thank you to Gretchen and the cats for being able to do this with us.
You know, it's always good to have you, whether we're recording an interview or not.
Yeah, I know my way around pretty well at this point. So let's sort of start with maybe one of the more difficult aspects of this. You know, you're someone who's spent your Magic career very much in the public side of things. You've, throughout your health struggles recently, you've been very public about that. Mm-hmm. Where are you right now in that, and what's happening?
Well, we're coming up on the 7th year of this adventure. I was diagnosed with throat cancer in around Thanksgiving of 2016. So we've been fighting it ever since. I fortunately have one of the best facilities in the world near me at Moffitt Cancer Center. And we've been through a lot. We've done a number of chemotherapies and radiations and alternate treatments and experimental treatments and whatnot. And to be honest, where we are right now is we're at there's not really much more we can do for you anymore. I've tried all the treatments and we still have a bit of disease progression. So what the next 3 to 6 months to a year hold, we just don't know. It certainly could be the worst case, but there are also cases of people who get to this point and then their disease just mysteriously stops. So all we can do, really all I'm committed to do, is living every day that I got. And I like to live that way in the first place anyway, but now certainly YOLO applies every minute of every day, and I'm just gonna do the things I want to do. I don't feel the need to make any grand gestures. You know, living is an everyday experience. It's not something that we necessarily plan for and ride up. It's that we go through it every day.
Right.
And we do it with the people that we care about, and don't give time to the people who don't want to give time to us.
But one of the things I think you've said continually since 2016 is you want to spend that time living.
Yeah.
And I've found that to be something that I think about a lot, you know, in terms of where does that come from?
I mean, the choice is live or die, and I can't. If a few months is all I have left, then I certainly don't want to waste it crying over the fact that there's only a couple of months that I have left or a year that I have left. There are a lot of wonderful things to experience in the world. Being with close friends like yourself, spending it with a miraculous partner like I live with for the last 17 years. Being a person in a great community that clearly loves you and wants you around. These are the things you just want to do. Same, and it's heartwarming, right? That friends are willing to give up some weeks of their lives to come make sure that yours is better.
Right.
Because really, truly dependent is what I am right now.
Right.
I would have a very, very difficult time living on my own.
Let me talk for a second, you know, as someone who's a content creator, and someone, you know, we talked again about that idea of, you know, living your life very publicly. What has the support of the Magic community, you know, Wizards of the Coast, the RC, what has that been like to see?
It's both expected and no, you didn't really need to do that, right? It runs both of those. These certainly, it wouldn't be something that I would demand out of them. At the same time, it's no less than I would expect from the high quality people they are. And through it all, the Wizards of the Coast folks, when it comes to going to events, and to some extent, the Cool Stuff Inc. folks and the Star City Gaming folks have been truly accommodating in just providing for me the opportunity to make sure that I can do the things that they would like me to do.
I've known you for a long time. You've always been someone who's very strong-willed, self-sufficient. Is there a moment where you had to reconcile that you know, where you had to realize that you needed to be willing to accept help?
Yeah, I mean, it was early on. It was the first treatment I ever underwent was radiation treatment for the original spot was in my throat, and radiation will knock you out. And I was doing 6 treatments every 5 days. So every day of the week plus extra on Thursday. And at some point, you just realize that you can't go on. Like if I tried to drive or whatever, it'd have been bad news. So, Toby drove. We got the car here at the house, drove over to Moffett, did a treatment. Just happened to have my friend Shay had an apartment right by Moffett campus, gave us the keys. We hung up there till the afternoon appointment. Toby would get on his laptop, do his work for the day. I would get on the couch and do my work for the day. And then we go to the last appointment, they bring me home.
Let me ask you something. You've mentioned members of the RC a couple times. And I think it's very easy when people are talking about Commander, you know, the RC is some, you know, almost like mythical entity. But, you know, for you, it is a group of close friends.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we had already worked together closely on Magic itself before Commander came down the pipe. Even if we're to put conservatively the first bits of Commander in 2004, Scott and I had done GPs together since 2000 already. Our first was in Dallas in 2000. And Toby and I, well, Toby wasn't even on the RC till much later, but Toby as a up and coming high level judge,
Right.
Was somebody that was had come into my inner circle. So it just became this thing where we were friends doing a thing, not friends who had gathered together to do a thing.
Right.
This thing came to us, and we decided to do it, as opposed to sort of top down making that decision.
Right. Not very different than a group of friends in a small town who drive to PTQs together
Yeah.
and become, bonded for
Yeah.
decades, right? Which
Right.
we've all had happen to us.
We became that team, and it worked because we were still going out there working together. Like, we were still going out doing shows together.
And so when you're talking about doing shows, you're talking about being a judge.
Yeah, talking about being a judge and a head judge on Pro Tours. Obviously, Scott's the Pro Tour manager. Toby, head judge on Pro Tours. Gavin Duggan as a regional coordinator. Maybe not a Pro Tour head judge, but
Certainly a Grand Prix head
certainly
judge.
a Grand Prix head judge. So the four of us spent plenty of time going to Pro Tour shows or going to GP shows, having the opportunity to then talk with each other about the format as well. Talk with the players, talk with the other judges, and talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah. It was in a lot of ways the original LobbyCon.
Yeah.
Right? People talk about LobbyCon all the time, like where you're hanging out.
Yep.
And I remember seeing all these people I knew playing this format and like just playing with cards, that nobody played with.
Right.
Right? It was pretty wild. What was it about that unique permutation of early players and the format that you think resonated and was able to catch on?
I really hoped for something kind of low stress to get the judges involved in for their days once the show was over. And EDH just kind of happened into it. I saw the two next to each other. I was like, this could work because it really is the format. The format is a social format first and a mechanical one second, right? So it's about getting everybody together, and then it's about happening to play Magic with this additional set of rules piled on top of it. And it became an easy de facto standard for relaxation for judges after a show. You can get a drink. You're probably there in the lobby bar, so there's a chance they're serving food. You get a plate of cheese fries or whatever, and then just hang with your friends and play some Commander. And the fun was had by getting together with your friends. So it became something where I realized we could put people together. They would enjoy themselves, relax. Really important to me for them to relax, because judging a Pro Tour is way more stressful than playing a Pro Tour. Right? The ceiling and the floor are different for you as a judge, and every decision you make is under the spotlight, and every decision you make is likely to get appealed. So you just, you have to emotionally deal with that. Some people are better at it than others. Some people bristle at the fact that somebody might question them. And we try to reinforce the idea, no, it's just a player taking care of themselves. Trust but verify is a phrase we use. And then just I think if we let the judges have that relaxation, they go into tomorrow cooler, so they can then be more relaxed when they do that. Fewer mistakes get made. They're in the zone. They're confident with themselves. They trust themselves. We have a better show all around.
I think the only interview you and I ever did before this was in 2006, which was a print interview about judging Grand Prix Richmond. And you talk about that responsibility of judging, and it was something that you obviously felt very strongly about, and we referred to you as the sheriff in that article. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Go a little bit more into that sense of responsibility you felt as a judge, both to players and other judges?
I think we have a bigger responsibility and run better events when we think more holistically. We think from a 10,000 foot level instead of what's right in front of us. And if we can be proactive in what we do, we can set a better tone for what ends up getting done. For example, in this event, we had heard that, like some people had done in the past, they were going to seed the format or the card pool with already registered decks,
right.
Broken already registered decks, huddled together to figure out a way to trap those decks, and end up coming up with a way by modifying a card name on the deck list, so that any deck list that showed up with this particular
I remember
spelling.
what it was. It was Bird of Paradise on the trapped deck list, and
Yep.
Birds of Paradise is obviously the actual card name.
Yep.
So it was
Yep.
it was brilliant.
And we got, I think, 8 players on that, and then several more suspiciously dropped out of the event before the first round. So, yeah, that was that.
Yeah.
So we had quite a few disqualifications early on, and then we had a few in the first 3 rounds for other things that players shouldn't be doing,
Right.
like randomly determining match outcomes
Right.
and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think of that as a period, a crucial period of time in Magic's history in terms of how, and again, just goes back to that term you used, responsibility, because it's not just responsible to the 2 players playing in a match where someone might be cheating. It's to the whole room.
Yep.
Right? It's to my trust as a player going into an event.
Yeah, it's like, somebody, well, you disqualifying me is bad customer service. And my answer is not to the other 398 players in the room,
Right.
right? They're there to get that customer service that we're giving to them, and they're gonna be thankful for it. In fact, because that's what we want. We want the most organic matches we can come up with. We want things as near to natural as is possible.
Sure. You talked a little bit about that idea of getting the judges into a flow state because they're relaxed. As a player, if you're constantly insecure about the sanctity of play, then you don't get into that flow state as a player.
Right.
I've seen that happen.
So I want to bring that attitude of safety and relaxation to both sides of the equation. And I think, again, that judges that have less to worry about and players that have less to worry about can do what they come to do better, whether it's play better, judge better, keep a clearer head, don't let any nonsense impact what's happening, because the stress levels are high enough already. And as long as we can keep the stress levels lower, then we're happy about it.
Do you feel like you've left your mark on judging? Do you feel like you've, left the game better than when you got there, kind of thing?
I would hope so. I think we put some things in place, and again, did some of that proactive thought instead of, back in the day, we were inventing it as we went along, right? We, with, you know, people like Mike Guptill and Nat Fairbanks, we just figure out what works at the professional level, and then less about bigger picture what we want to accomplish. Once we put out all the fires, then we could think about creating standards and procedures. But it came definitely several years later, and took a lot more work because we didn't go for it in the beginning. We didn't stand it up right away. But I think we were ultimately successful in putting an attitude behind judging, just like we did with Commander. Like the idea, there are ideas of doing it differently, and every time somebody said, "Well, just make EDH like every other format," the answer is no. There are plenty of other formats like that, so why would we want to remake them? We want to make this different thing that's different, and here's why. We want this sort of rest from normal tournament magic because of those stressors, because of the necessities, and what you have to pay attention to. And we want again, we want relaxation, we want wackiness, we want, a perfect Commander game is everybody does something epic happens, and somebody eventually wins. That's it.
Right.
And everybody has a good time, right? It doesn't matter whether it was you or me that did the epic thing and you or me were the winner or loser. It's that it happened.
Right.
The best thing that happened, one of the best plays that ever happened to me, at a table was I wasn't even involved, and somebody cast Tooth and Nail Entwined, and with the trigger to put all the plant tokens on the stack, third player mirror weaved all the plants into suture priests.
Oh no.
So that got a pretty big laugh from the table.
Yeah.
So we want that kind of thing. But nobody's going to remember that you comboed out on turn 3. Nobody.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
I'm just nobody's going to remember it. The wacky mirror weave thing, it was the kind of play that we want to see out of players, that really exemplify what the draw is to the format. And we thought that, going back to leaving my mark on it was exactly the games I wanted to see, right? And it became an insistence on ensuring that the environment was right for those kind of things to happen. That we could create it so that it wasn't just the same old all the time.
Right. And that is the essence of social play, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing was, we thought that there'd be some people for whom the message resonated. The misjudgment was exactly how many, because it was orders of magnitude more than we expected.
Right.
And the first Command Fest up in Seattle, I happened to be up there working, a brief stint on Strixhaven design during the first Command Fest. And the first hour of the first morning, I stood up to stretch my legs, and I looked around the room, and there was 1,100 or so people playing Commander on a Friday morning in Seattle in early December, or early November 2019. I wouldn't have thought that there were 1,100 people ever to play the format in
Wow.
the world, right? Back in the day.
Right.
And now here they were, and guess what? 1,000 more were gathering in Chicago, and 1,000 more were gathering in Orlando, and in D.C. or wherever they were, and here we were. We didn't set the goal to conquer the world, but we sure as hell did. And now you got to do something with it. Now it doesn't follow. You have to take the next step. It doesn't follow just to rest on your laurels as the most popular format. Now what? And really, what's next? And what's next for me is do something good with it. Now that we have it, let's take our social conscience. Commander is the only format with a conscience. Commander is the only format with a philosophy. And we want to use that philosophy to do more good in the neighborhood, as it were. Be a positive voice for our community. Support causes from traditionally marginalized groups. Promote good people from all around the community. Just be there and do the kind of things that leadership does. It's not being on the RC is a hell of a lot more than just deciding what gets banned, which is which is quite honestly just a tiny part of what we do and what we want to do.
Right. Having watched people playing to eventually playing to where it is now is pretty profound. And one of the things that always strikes me about Commander, EDH, whatever you want to call it, is this almost like, it feels to me like what I thought Magic was when it was first described to me. 4 people are playing at the table. There's almost no overlap in cards being played or styles of play. And it is, very much envisioned it, I think, in its early days as a social game, right? It was like something that you'd play with your friends. I am so grateful to you and to the people who have worked with you to have created that, because it's been tremendously rewarding. And I think, everyone watching this probably feels that same way.
Yeah, we definitely want to stick with our guns and not deviate from the mission. Failing, I would have been much happier to fail as we were than succeed as somebody else. And I think time has borne us out. We're passing 20 years now. If we're going to put the first official date of the birth of EDH on the first article that I wrote, that would be August 04.
You're writing that article. Do you remember writing it? Do you remember putting it out there? What was your mindset at that moment? What was your objective?
The format had gotten enough support from the judge community already that I wanted to show it to other people. So it was really about getting non-Pro Tour judges to play and check it out. We've gotten a couple of interests from Pro Tour players wandering by. Hey, what are you doing? Everybody will stop by a Magic game, right?
Yeah.
Especially one with 70 permanents on the board. Hey, what are you doing? Quick explanation. Or, ooh, that sounds cool. But always stick with the original vision. Always be right there. So once we decided to stick, it was easy. And just go for it. And you're not going to see, there are people putting together a tournament, Commander. Oh, good for them.
Yeah.
Let them do what they want. We're not going to take any action to do anything about what they're doing. Just let them do it. But we're not going to hinder them either, right? We're not going to go, oh, they're the worst things ever, and they're going to, blah, blah, blah. If they're going to find success, good for them.
Right.
And if not,
I find it very interesting to be here at this moment in Commander's history and it's where the game, as we've gone through this interview, is this synthesis, other than maybe being a bouncer at some point, every aspect of your professional career, right? I mean, very well documented the origins of the game and your time in the military, your time as a judge, your time as a content creator, your time as public figure or sort of like a council person, as it were. Is this something that is a very unique expression of your life?
yeah, I mean, that seems to be the sort of thing I'm cut out for. Leadership is a thing that comes relatively naturally to some people. And seeing it for what it needs to be is really important, because leadership is not about me forcing my views on you. It's finding some like-minded people and getting us all together and leading us in the right direction. Is removing the roadblocks that we can, that are going to stand in the way, but making things better just seems like the right thing to do, right? I just, here are the things I love and I want to improve on them, and this is one of those things.
So you've talked a little bit about like Tournament Commander, or obviously you've been an inspiration to people, not just who live within the Commander community, but people who have wanted to follow your lead and create something and build something. What has that been like to sort of see people trying to follow in those footsteps? But mostly, what's your advice to someone looking to build a community and maybe a format?
Well, I mean, it's pretty humbling to look at and somebody say, oh, I want to do what you did. And that only goes so far. You can maybe do what you want to do, how I did it. But I think what you want to do is your own altogether. But it's a good look into process and what the right things are to do, right? Again, creating a community is about uplifting your exceptional individuals and putting together the people that want to do the thing that you're trying to do. When you support that, when you reinforce those lessons, you end up hearing the things come back to you that you love to hear. Whether it's in the judge program or in Commander, when I hear somebody repeat back to me something I said before, then it's a great lesson, right? I mean, it gets weird every now and again. When, one day on the Pro Tour floor, I made a ruling. Somebody asked me for a ruling on a card, and I made a ruling, and the player said, "Yeah, but that's not the way that Sheldon guy on Star City Games said it works." It's like
the old Brian Dennehy and Silverado
Yep.
move.
Name tag. Moments like that you just love to hear, especially when it's some sort of wisdom that you hope you're passing down through your community, and you hear the next level leader speak it with true conviction. Right. With not that they're just regurgitating what they heard, but they've grasped it and implemented it, and it's in their thought processes, and they're good with it. So that's very, very happy to see that kind of thing, and to just see something created that I think is good is very heart-filling, right? It's so cool to be able to look on a thing, and I certainly didn't do it by myself, right? Don't ever take that message, but to see something that I would have liked to end up in a certain way, that thing has ended up that certain way. That's a big win, right? And I think we can account that as an accomplishment.
Right. Are there some people, you talk about no one does that alone. Are there some people you want to, say, and I know you do this all the time for people, but to say thank you to, or to shine a spotlight on from various eras of Commander's history?
Nah, screw them. I did it by myself. Yeah, well, like I said, back in the beginning, the first sort of elite Pro Tour judges were Mike and Nat and maybe even Mike Donay. I want to give a lot of props to players, to some specific players who gave a lot of buy-in to what I wanted to do with the judge program. Certainly, that Chris Bakula's name is going to be the top on my list because he's the player that led the groundswell of support to the players realizing that they wanted clean tournaments too. Players like Chris or JVL or, LSV, any number of players who were like, no, clean tournaments are better. And I noticed the better the player, the cleaner the player they want, the cleaner the event they want. We want clean events. How can we help you? And, telling the truth, in the early days, a lot of players didn't want to say anything.
Who are the people who are vocal and active in the Commander community right now who are, in your mind, exemplars of what you want the format to be?
Well,
and I know there's a lot of them.
Yeah. We could be here another hour talking about everybody.
I don't mind.
Certainly, Jim Lepage are one of our two most recent additions to the RC, along with Olivia Gobert-Hicks. Sees Commander the way that I think is really healthy. Jim is really good at wrapping his brain around complex concepts and distilling them and being able to talk intelligently to people who aren't as highly invested as he is. Great magic mind, just wants people to have fun and love the format. There are so many content creators out there right now that are just doing the good work. You'll notice a disproportionate number of Commander charity streams compared to other formats. And that's because those are the people we built. Those are the people we've attracted. Those are the mindsets that we've brought along. So it's natural if that's what they're going to do. Queen of Cardboard and Voxy and EDH Hijinks are just, out there slamming it. And, you love to see them work.
Magic can be something of a selfish hobby in terms of like Magic itself demanding a lot of your time, your thought space. You've spent close to 30 years involved with the game. Do you have any regrets about how you've spent that time?
Not at all. I was either in the hospital still or here, and I had a stack of bundle boxes and was messing with cards. And I'm like, just having a time of my life. I went into the hospital just as I started a database revitalization project to sort of catalog all my cards and get a decent value on them and everything. But the trip to the hospital was unexpected and then lasted 38 days.
Yeah.
So, the table upstairs is still kind of looks like what it looked like 3 months ago. And I don't regret spending the time doing all the administrative work that went into that. The cataloging my, what copies of Eldrazi Displacer am I playing in 9 different decks or whatever.
When you're talking about this cataloging project, you talk about like all the stuff upstairs. What artifacts of your Magic career is there anything that's really special to you? Like anything that has been that you look at and just fills you with joy?
The bobbleheads that Toby and Jen Elliott got me in judge uniform. They're kind of special. Toby and Jen also got my master's portfolio printed on a blanket. So upstairs there's a sheepskin, an actual sheepskin blanket with my Henry V, my paper in which Henry V demonstrates that he doesn't just kick the French out of his country, he kicks them out of his language too. And that's printed on a on a blanket, along with Clockwork Orange paper about the primacy of beauty. Sort of leapfrog off of a Camille Paglia essay, and about the fact that we let beautiful people get away with stuff. But yeah, I mean, there are some doodads, like the odd playmat or something. But yeah, definitely no cards.
Well, let's talk about the intangible then. When you look back at your Magic career, what is your most cherished memory?
Well, it felt pretty good in Las Vegas last year, when Game Nights Live kind of gave me a victory lap at the beginning of the show. Right? They put me in the Brando tuxedo from his daughter's wedding, and I ended up officiating on stage for a while for that. That was a lot of fun, and again a sort of recognition of a rival. That we're the cool kids in town now, finally, and just the ability to walk in some very rarefied air, doing the design stint at Wizards was a direct result of this, right? That came from me doing the thing, and it came from a very brief conversation with Gavin Verhey, and hey, this would be cool. Hey, can we make it happen? And that was a conversation in June in Richmond. And in October, I was throwing my bags in Seattle. for a 2-month stint on the Strixhaven design team. So, that kind of thing can happen. And it was the best, I gotta tell you, it was the best work I've ever done. Designing magic cards was the best work I've done in the best environment I've ever worked in. I love the half walls for the cubicles instead of the high ones, because you get the meerkat conversations, right? You're sitting at your desk and I turn to my right and I say something to Ethan Fleischer, who's at the next desk over. And Ethan says something, and then, boop, Chris Mooney's head from the other side of the cube pops up, and they stand up and put their 2 cents into the thing, and then, Corey Bowen turns around and says, gives it, some nonsense interpretation, which then Rosewater grabs onto and starts a poll somehow, and just this furtive energy there in Studio X leads to this amazing design.
Is there anything in your Magic career that you haven't done that you wanted to do?
I guess play on a Pro Tour.
Did you never play on a Pro Tour?
I did not play on a Pro Tour.
I did not realize that. Was that the pull of judging that you
Yeah.
Yeah.
I qualified for European Nationals one year, 98. But then there was judging problem. There happened to be a judging problem that year, and the Belgian office were like, "Can you come in and fix this?"
Yes.
So I didn't get to play in that either.
What does competitive Sheldon look like? We all know social Sheldon, who can be fairly competitive, by the way. but what does full-blown competitive Sheldon look like?
Quiet. Quiet and crunching numbers all the time. It's really, 'cause I think you play it by the numbers and you do reasonably well. Don't try to get fancy. Don't get above your raisin. Play a deck you're familiar with and enjoy. Right. I did reasonably well playing through the last couple of standard seasons that I played, like with Jund and Mythic Bant, because I just like them.
Right.
There's joy to Eldrazi conscription, enchanting something. There's joy cascading from Blightning and the
From Bloodbraid Elf into Blightning?
yeah, from
Yeah.
Bloodbraid Elf and Blightning. And it's being in the best possible mindset, because while I would like to win, I don't care if I lose. Like there's no personal value tied up in winning. A big believer in being, not doing. So if you be attributes, be honest and kind and giving and wise, and other things will, and then the things that you do will come to you. Whereas people who want to do, well, I want to win the thing, or I want to make the major leagues or whatever. I think you can do those things, but you miss out on the being. They get sacrificed as opposed to enhanced. And I think you can enhance the being, and then the doing falls into place. And I'd much rather do it that way.
So it's the classic. It's not the destination so much as the journey.
It's journey, right?
Well, thank you so much for letting me join you on your journey and letting all of us join you on your journey.
Thanks for having me.
And any thoughts you want to close this out with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the next couple of months hold, if anything. So I think the way to do it is face it the way we face everything else, right? With the spirit of moving forward ahead. And if I've got 3 months or 3 days or 3 years, only way I know to do them is all the way. And I count on my dearest friends to help me do that. So that's what we're going to do.
All right, that's what we'll do. I love you, Sheldon. Thank you for letting me come here today and do this with you. It means a lot to me.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Thank you so much for coming here today and sharing this with Sheldon and with me and with everybody. And I think his words of be generous, be kind, be honest are things that I'll carry with me every day. I just want to say something and share something with everybody here. And I'm sorry this is very difficult, but before Sheldon left, Wizards of the Coast was working with him on a special secret lair drop. To commemorate his place in magic history, all the proceeds are going to the American Cancer Society. The drop is not ready yet, but a lot of people in the wake of his passing talked about the idea that Sheldon really deserved to be on a magic card, and he will be. So here's a preview of what Wizards of the Coast has been working on with him. It's a beautiful piece by one of his favorite artists, Donato Giancola, and it's something you can, there'll be more information about it as it's available. So everybody, please tell your friends you love them, enjoy some good food, enjoy some fair play, enjoy some social play, do something great, and thank you again.